What is going on, guys? Carter here with Edged Mindset. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate you being here. Couldn't do it without you. Wouldn't want to anyways. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. We're doing a strange comparison video today. We're going to compare this Roosevelt, this Oz Machine Company Roosevelt, to a Spyderco Shaman. Because I actually sold this knife. I got to ship it off. I wanted to shoot some content on it before it goes. And I wanted to do a comparison video, but it's tricky because I don't know what to compare it to. It seems like anything I picked to compare it to would be a little off the cuff, a little wild. This one non-excluded. So what we're going to do here is really, this Shaman could be, you could stand in your knife of choice, right? Just a less expensive, somewhat comparable knife. Right, you can stand it in here. There's lots of makers out there, but I chose the Shaman for a couple reasons. Overall size is ish the same. Blade shape is ish the same. Opening holes, both made in the US. Premium materials. That's about where the similarities end. I'm not saying these two things are similar. I just wanted to really kind of compare this to a less expensive knife, continuing my theme of, is this worth the money? Yeah, so let's get into it. Let's just do a quick comparison. We'll do a size, even though it's really not that pertinent to what I'm talking about here. You can kind of see the relative size. But in case you don't know what we're dealing with here, 3 3/4 inch blade on the Roosevelt, 8.5 inches overall. It is a big boy. On the Shaman here, it is 3 3/4 inch blade, maybe a little under. And then 8 and 8 1/4. So, pretty close in overall length, not that wild of a difference. The Roosevelt has just a little bit of overall size on it, length as well as some width. Let's do a weight just for fun. Once again, not particularly pertinent to this video, but in case you do want to know, 5.1 ounces. By the way, somebody left a comment, 5 ounces, huh? I did not actually expect it to be that close. Maybe maybe this comparison isn't that random after all. Little sequitur here. Non sequitur? Is that right? I don't know. Little tangent. Somebody left a comment on my Roosevelt video where I asked, is this knife worth $1,000, right? I'm baiting comments. I get that, but I got a good one. Somebody said, no knife should cost more than gold unless it is made out of gold. The max that any knife should cost is $450. I wanted to do a video response on it, but I didn't want to be a total D-bag and actually call this person out, but I'll mention it. That's a nice midway. I found that comment funny because the gold thing doesn't really make any sense. I don't know if he means per ounce, because if that's the case, 5 ounces of gold is about 13 grand. So definitely a deal compared to if this was made of gold. But the second one, does he mean any amount of gold? Like, you can buy gold flakes for like $10. So I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. And then I also found it funny that he specifically mentioned $450. That's his cap. I love it. On the nose, $450. He didn't round down to 400. He didn't round up to 5. It's $450. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Anyways, done with that story. Let's get on to this. So what do we have? Both of these are very slicey. That's another thing that is common with both of these knives. They cut very, very well. They're thin behind the edge. This one's going to take it, though. You can see how much higher this grind is. And so it is going to be quite a bit slicier. The blade stock is also a little bit thinner. So this one takes it on the sliceometer in terms of cutting performance capabilities, which it's no surprise. The Roosevelt is kind of known for the slicey type knife. Both of these have opening holes. The steel, this one's M4, this one's 20 CV, but a lot of these are Magna Cut. It depends. You can also get this in S30V. So they come in a bevy of different steels. So I'm not really going to speak too much on that because I don't really care about comparing these exact two. I mean, the model versus model. So we're going to call that about the same. From what I understand, the heat treat, everything is rock solid on the Roosevelts, and so is Spyderco. One negative on the cutting ability of the Spyderco is the nub, the much hated nub right here that gets in the way of kind of really getting in and cutting things flat on the surface. Whereas in terms of cutting performance, look at how this belly swoops down, and oh man, just much easier to cut things consistently with this. Not to mention just being prettier. It's just prettier. You can look, this is not me sharpening. This is factory sharpening. Spydercos have always been kind of ugly, especially towards this end of the line here, the plunge. Always just looks a little bit off. In terms of handle materials, we are rocking full titanium frame lock with a lock bar insert on the Roosevelt. Full titanium pocket clip. By the way, fun fact, the Roosevelt XL is the only Roosevelt that has milling on the pocket clip. The regular size is all smooth, assuming it's factory. You can get aftermarket stuff, but kind of interesting how the XLs have milling on the pocket clip. I really kind of like it. Looks very, very cool. This one, however, is a little more old school. This is some Contour G10 here with steel liners. This one has a compression lock made of steel, so no need for a steel insert. Bent steel pocket clip, so definitely less on the material standpoint. Next up, we've got action. So the Roosevelt has arguably as good of action as I think you will ever see. Now, I know I said that about the Super Nintendo graphics back in the 90s, and we have since learned that that is not the pinnacle of graphics, but I'm confident, I'm more confident on saying that this is the pinnacle of smooth action. I really don't see, any smoother than this and it would be unusable. So extremely smooth action, running on bearings. Stock bearings are beautiful on this thing. The detent ball is placed exactly right so that you're not hitting like any kind of weird ledge or anything like that. Just pure perfection. The Spyderco is not running on bearings. The action is still very nice and fun and flicky. But you can see even if you release that compression lock, you can barely shake it shut. Whereas this one, even with the lock bar engaged, it drops shut. You might have to shake it a little. And if you don't engage that lock bar, if you push it all the way out, it just guillotines down. So obviously you wouldn't expect phosphor bronze washers to behave any differently. But yeah, just pointing that out. No bearings here. Not nearly as smooth, but still pretty dang fidgety and fun and nice. Weight, like I mentioned before, is the same. This has the benefit of being fully reversible in terms of pocket clips, tip up, tip down, left hand, right hand. The Roosevelt is just right hand only, tip up only, which is, the majority of knife users prefer that configuration. So not too much to complain about there. It kind of is what it is. In terms of carryability, overall width of the knife, the Roosevelt's actually quite wide, especially when you blow it up to this XL size. When it's in the regular size, you don't really notice because it's still very skinny. But when you blow it up like this, you see just how wide it is. It's a little bit wider than the Spyderco, which is saying a lot because Spydercos are known for being wide because of this opening hole here. Whereas the Roosevelt is wide. It has an opening hole. It's obviously more narrow, but because it has such a tall blade for its sliceability, they have to put this pivot further down here instead of being more centered in the handle. And then that means that it's going to be poking out quite a bit. You can see how it pokes out, although not that different, honestly, than the Shaman here, but it is more pronounced compared to something like this guy. You can see how this does not stick out as much, and this is far more narrow. It is smaller, but it's far more narrow. It's about the size of the handle here, not including the blade. So it is pretty wide in the handle, especially when you get up to this XL sizes. I mentioned this in other videos. The Roosevelt really was designed to be the size of the regular, in my opinion. And blowing it up is kind of fun, but it's not as effective. It loses some stuff when you blow it up to this size. So now let's talk looks. Which one looks better? Hands down, Roosevelt, in my opinion. This thing is banging. It's a really strong silhouette, really nice looking knife, done so well. The quality, perfectly centered, all those things. This guy took me a good hour once I took it apart to clean it, to get this thing relatively centered. I don't even know if it is. It's pretty close to being centered, but it took a lot of finagling, taking these screws, loosening them, prying the blade over. These do not go together like a Roosevelt. Like, Some of you younger people that only have experience with knives like this, we used to have to center our own knives because everything was so sloppy. You know, the scales and stuff, you had to put it together right in a certain order and tweak this and tweak that to get things centered. Now, especially with these all metal knives, you just put it together and it is perfectly centered, right? You can't have it not be centered just about. So definitely higher quality. But now let's get to, and I mentioned they're both made in the US. They're both made in the US. Let's get to price. That's the biggest difference, right? This is about $1,000. This is about $250, I think, for a regular edition. This one's a sprint run. It was a little bit more because I paid extra because they were long since out of print, out of manufacturing. Yeah, so almost or just about 4x the price to get a Roosevelt compared to a Spyderco. So that's up to you to decide, is this worth 4x the price? What do you get? You get higher quality, more premium materials, more purpose-built slicing ability. You also get scarcity, right? You get to join the cool kids club and show off your Roosevelt and say, I'm cool because I got a Roosevelt. There's value there. I'm not knocking it. I love that. That's part of the reason I'm into like Striders is the cool kids club. I like to be in the cool kids club. So you definitely get a part of that here. Now you do get a little taste if you get into the sprint runs of Spyderco. But for the most part, a regular Shaman, you can buy those any day of the week, just about from any retailer. I know they're not always available. It depends on if they're doing certain runs and stuff, but way easier to get a hold of a Shaman than a Roosevelt XL for sure. So comment down below, do you think this is worth 4x the price? Different people will have different perspectives. I tend to think, I kind of see as it is. I kind of see this as, this is about a fourth as impressive as the XL. Like if you bar any sort of mental money caps you have in your head, which is like, I would never, like I mentioned before, I would never spend more than $450 on a knife. If you can get past that and you just think of what you're getting for the money, in my mind, I think these are comparable, right? This is about a fourth of the quality and a fourth of the materials and a fourth of the cool factor compared to the Roosevelt. Just about, maybe not quite, maybe a third. I don't know. Hard to say. But comment down below. What do you think? Do you think this is worth the money? Would you take 4 of these over one of these? Maybe different varieties, different blade finishes and steels and stuff. Or would you prefer just to have one banger of a knife like a Rosie XL? Comment down below. Appreciate you all. I will talk to you later.